So, you've been playing Marvel Strike Force for a little while, and you've reached about level 52. But you don't know what to do next. Maybe there's just not a lot of stuff to do in the game. Well, buckle up. I'm about to give you guys some knowledge on what to do, what to expect between levels 52 to about 60, and kind of help you prepare for the rest of your journey in Marvel Strike Force. So let's get into it here. So I'm just going to go over a little bit of some of the things that you'll be experiencing up through level 60 and kind of give you a little bit of an explanation on what to do and how to use your resources wisely, because I'm always big on that. So let's get into the first, the main thing to know, if you're free to play especially, is when you're a new player, you will probably more than likely be running into either a gold bottleneck or a training mat bottleneck. It sounds like with the help of some people that have been helping me out with these series of videos, a new free-to-play player is probably going to have more of a training mat bottleneck than anything else. It sounds like the game is giving a bunch of other resources that you need, except for training mats isn't quite keeping up with the demand that you need. And especially lately we've been getting different events for for each week or whatever, but they're giving XP. And so this is actually, for a new player, it's nice that you can get those levels built up, but the problem is you're leveling up faster than intended, and so then you might be inclined to level up your characters even more, and then that just drains you of your training mats. So that's been the experience of some people I've been working with on this series of videos. So only level up the characters that you absolutely need to. That would be probably the number one thing. The other thing to keep in mind is for these challenges here, since training mats are one of the biggest bottlenecks, I would try to focus on working on these challenges here, getting as high of a tier as you can. Now, they do require cosmic characters, so, and I know they do have some like gear tier restrictions and everything like that. So yeah, just get as high as you can, that way you're getting free training mats. That way, you also could consider buying training mats in the arena store here. So that's another avenue where you can get them. It's not ideal, it's not great, because you will need to farm some of these characters in the arena store. Now, I would probably suggest only going to like 5, maybe 6 yellow stars on those characters that you need out of that arena store. And then I would just stop and let the 7 yellow stars come naturally. So that's something that I would do, or I would recommend. So in this time period between level 52 and 60, you're going to be getting and unlocking green ISO. Now, with my account, I don't have a way to show green ISO. I don't have any new characters unlocked or anything like that. But let's just go over ISO real quick in general. So ISO is kind of a way to help with combat and kind of a little bit of a theory crafting type of a modifier, I guess you could call it. So there's different classes for ISO. Now, when you do unlock the green ISO, you will get an inbox message for a couple of different blogs that tell you how it all works, but I thought I would just cover it here real quickly just in case you don't want to read those blogs. So I think we'll start with Skirmisher, because it's Skirmisher. What Skirmisher does kind of builds off of some of the other ISOs out there. So Skirmisher will put down a vulnerable. It's called a vulnerable. It looks like a purple little crosshair that'll show up above the characters. And a little known fact about vulnerable is that vulnerable, if you have it on the enemy character or your own characters, it actually increases the incoming damage on that character by 10%. So it makes them a little bit weaker due to the damage coming into them. So that's kind of nice. Now Skirmisher will guarantee if you get, let's say you get up to green 5, it is subject to a resistance check, but Skirmisher also increases, well, at least on the blue side. The green doesn't. But in the blue ISO, once you get blue ISO, it actually increases the focus. So you're landing negative effects or landing vulnerables more consistently. So there's different levels for the green. There's levels 1 through 5, and it'll tell you here, what each of them does, what each level does. Now you will get a little bit of different stat increases for each of these 5 sections here. So you'll get a boost to armor, resistance, health, and focus and damage. So for each level, so we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Each of those levels, you'll get just a tiny bit of a stat bump, and then you'll of course get the different levels of different. You'll also unlock the different tiers, I guess, of what each of the classes do. So, Skirmisher will put a vulnerable guaranteed as long as you don't get resisted, and that sets up a Striker character. So let's go over to Striker real quick. So a Striker, if there is a vulnerable on the character that the Striker character attacks into, then they will get an additional ISO bonus attack, which if you've seen my other graphics or heard about like an ISO attack, most of the time it'll be based on their basic attack. And there might be like some differences to it. So like, let's say a character on their regular basic, they like put out offense down, defense down, slow, and then do some damage or whatever. The ISO attack may not do some of those debuffs, but they should do the damage at least. It'll probably be reduced damage from what the normal attack is. So let's say the basic does like 300% damage or something. The ISO attack will do like, I don't know, 150 or something, maybe probably less than that. So that's something to keep in mind. But Striker basically does that ISO attack. It also gives extra damage. And then you get the max health, which is pretty much the same across the board for any of the ISOs. So that is Striker. And then Raider gets extra crit chance, crit damage, and then it will also put out vulnerables. If the character gets a crit, it will put out vulnerables. So it's kind of a little bit of a mix of a Striker and a Skirmisher. You can get multiple vulnerables. Like for Skirmisher, you only get 1 vulnerable. You could get up to 5 here on the, well, this is blue. So you can, with green ISO, you can get up to a maximum of 3 vulnerables. When you get to level 5, you can get to a maximum of 5 vulnerables. So you can put multiple vulnerables on a character with Raiders. So like I said, it's kind of a mix between Striker and Skirmisher. It's quite a popular ISO choice. Striker's a popular one too. Skirmisher, I'd say, is probably 3rd most popular. Then we'll get into the ISOs that probably aren't as used as much, which are Healer and Fortifiers. So Healer will put out a minor regeneration, which is like half of a healing of a normal regeneration. And let's see, Healer obviously is going to heal an ally if you get up to level 3. More healing if you get to level 5 in the green portion anyway. And it just gets better and better from there as far as like healing and things like that goes for once you get to blue and purple ISO. Now the Fortifier is going to be basically putting barrier on that character. And basically it's just all the way up to purple anyway. It's just adding barrier, more stats, things like that. So if you really want a character to survive and that's all you really care about, then barrier's a good choice, or healer. There's some different things going on with ISO. once you get to the purple level, but that will be a while for you if you're only in the 50 to 60 level range right now. So we can talk about that at another time. But that's the quick rundown of green ISO. Also wanted to go over opening red stars strategy. So as a new player, they are giving you a bunch of red star orbs. You have the regular red stars, you have the elite 4s, you have the elite 5s, and so on. Now, what I think is the best strategy, even for a new player, for anyone really, is going to be, once this banner here changes over to a X10 for dark promotion credits, that's when you start opening these orbs. And I feel like you get better drops opening them from this screen rather than going over here. Now you could do this, but like I was just about to say, I feel like you get better drops when you open them one at a time. If you don't have that kind of time on your hands, then go ahead and do this. But you don't need to save these for when a new character gets added to the game and they get featured in the red star orbs, which is what's happening right now with Patriot as of recording this video. But I would recommend only opening your elite red star orbs when there's a new character featured. If there's not a new character, then I just hold on to them. That would be my suggestion anyway. So I would work your way down, maybe open. If this were you right now, you had 44, I would open until you get to 20, unless you pull like a Patriot. You pull a featured character, then you can move on to the 5s, go all the way down to 20, and then save up again for the next character. You can open up the 6s and so on. It depends on your spending type, your play style, things like that. If you really want that character that's coming out. If you're free to play, you're probably not going to get higher than like a 5 yellow star, at least at the beginning anyway. So maybe opening only the elite 5s for the featured characters isn't a bad idea, but then again, eventually you'll get 7 yellow, so maybe you want to open the elite 6s and elite 7s. Just kind of depends on how you want to do things, and how many orbs you have too. But that would be my recommendations, is only open these. Well, you can either open these at any time or wait till the 10x happens here, and then open the elite orbs for when the new featured character shows up every time they release a new character, which is about, as of recording this video, it's like between 10 and 12 days. Every 10 to 12 days they come out with a new character. So now the big thing I've been working on for this video especially, we are going to talk about legendaries. So when you unlock a legend, or when you are preparing to unlock some legendaries, I'm going to give you some graphics to help you out here. Now, this graphic here has all the legendaries on it, and which ones you should focus on. Now, for the S tier, those legendaries are all going to be trial characters, which means they're not like the legendaries you've been seeing, which is usually only requires like one team and you have to get them to up to 7 yellow stars. That isn't going to be the case for some of these trials. I think Old Man Logan trials, for the highest difficulty, you did need 7 yellow, but Shadow King, Black Cat, Nova, Green Goblin, you didn't need 7 yellow. But the trials are kind of a little bit more ways down the road. You probably, to even try to unlock the legendaries at the base level, you probably need to be about level 85 to 90 to even try to get close to unlocking these characters, the trial ones. So for this video purposes, and the other graphic that I'm going to be showing you in a minute, we're kind of ignoring the trial legendaries for now because that's not going to be relevant to your experience until it's later down the road. So, all you can do, can't do much about it, but all you can do is focus on the other useful legendaries that you can potentially unlock, which are going to be, starting in the A tier, going to be Rogue, Phoenix, Doc, and then Red Hulk, Invisible Woman, and Omega Red, and then Morgan, Archangel, Black Bolt, and Iron Man. Unless you have characters already built for some of these other legendaries in the D and the trash tier, I wouldn't worry about like super focusing on getting them, because the way I ranked this list was I thought about, in my experience, how often did I use these legendaries in the last 3 to 6 months? And this D tier I used maybe 3 or 4 times in the last 3 to 6 months. There's some very situational things that go on with some of these, whether it be War or Crucible or whatever. Battle World maybe, but other than that, they're not really ones you want to super hard focus on. Anything the C and up is what you want to focus on, and obviously the trash, you just go through the events if you have the characters for them, but I wouldn't spend time on or resources on getting these last 2 tiers, obviously. I mean, you can get some of the rewards, so that's why I'm saying if you have the characters built and you can get through them, then that's great. But other than that, I wouldn't worry too much about getting those last 2 tiers here. So be on the lookout in my Discord server. I'm going to post this guide here for the priority list. And then to go along with this priority list, I took, and took those characters, the characters that are used to unlock some of these legendaries over here. I cross-referenced all the characters to see like what would be the best investment and most worthwhile investments that kind of cross over and are able to unlock multiple legendaries. So that's what this graphic is all about here. I'm just going to break this down just a little bit. It should be pretty self-explanatory, but this will be all the characters that you should focus on, or all the legendary characters that you should focus on getting as a new player. And like I said, the trials are going to be a little bit down the road, that's why I didn't include them. Some of the bigger legendaries that you should focus on are the 4 Horsemen characters, because then you can get Apocalypse as well, and he's going to be a super powerful character, kind of like some of the other Dark Dimension characters that we have. So, something to note here at the very top, which is why it's at the top, it's pretty important. Alright, so at the very top of the graphic, we have this box here that has the highest crossover for legendaries. So, these characters are going to have the most bang for your buck as far as investment goes. This top row here, except for Strange, all the other ones are used for 4 different legendaries on this graphic here, and then the rest of them are used for 3 different legendaries. So definitely a good place to start for investing into characters. There's a lot of Mystic here, so be wary of that, but they can be used in multiple legendaries. So we've got Sue Storm over here, Invisible Woman. She's going to take a lot of the Sinister Six. You could go that route. They're a great villain team as well for like, and I think they're used for like some of the campaigns, so not a bad team to go with. They're a really strong team. If you can get Green Goblin, obviously he's technically available to use, but you know, some of the other Sinister Six without him, they're still going to be pretty good. Deathpool and Deadpool are going to be able to be used for her too. Now, Deathpool has some extra bonus as far as usefulness and investment, because she's also going to be required for APOC down the road. So she's going to be another good one that is definitely worth investing in. And we've got Doc Ock. He's kind of It kind of overlaps with this clump over here, but not as much as some of the other ones. So we do have Cap and Iron Man. You're going to see them up here. So they're going to be useful to unlock Doc. And then the rest, we got Defenders and then Deadpool again. So those are the choices you could invest in for Doc. We've got Morgan Le Fay. Now, she is a Scourge. She was the very first Scourge or Trial. Scourge and Trial are kind of the same thing. So if you hear those words, then that basically means the same kind of unlock. But she was the very first one, and they updated her requirements for as far as like teams go, and probably the most efficient team that I've found with working with Donnie and some other people, some other newer players, is Hive Mind's actually going to be a really good team to focus on for her. It's a shame that you don't really get a lot of use or crossover out of them for other legendaries, but some of the players I've been working with, they were able to only take Hive Mind to like gear 12, and were able to get through the Morgan trials at like a 6 yellow, I think, level. So I thought that was pretty good use of the resources for that. Didn't have to go pump them up too high. So then we get to some of the bigger Venn diagrams here, and I'm a little bit in the way. There we go. Let's just go move this over just a little bit. There we go. All right, so we've got Red Hulk, Archangel, Iron Man, Omega Red. They all share at least some characters together. And obviously we have Archangel and Iron Man. You can use Kestrel for them. Red Hulk has got a lot of characters that can be used for him, but he also has a lot of crossover with Omega Red. Some with Archangel. So it's nice that Omega Red and Red Hulk, they both can use Avengers. And with the Mighty Avengers being a thing now, recently, they're a raid team. Some of them are on a raid team, some of them are on a war team, and some of them are on a Crucible team. So it just depends on how you want to go. But if you're familiar with Venn diagrams, you want to look more in the middle section to see what crossovers you have. That way you can use that to your advantage and maximize your resources being spent. So then we go over to the other side where we have some more crossovers, and we have Rogue, Black Bolt, and Phoenix. And it was interesting when I did Phoenix because her characters that are required, it's a pretty narrow trait. So it's Mystic Controller, so a little bit of a narrow trait, but she doesn't actually have any characters that don't overlap with the other characters here. So I thought that was kind of interesting, but Black Bolt's got a bunch of overlap, as you can see. And then Rogue, she does have some, obviously, actually quite a bit of overlap, but I did look at the traits compared to like some of the other Horseman trials, and it looks like her trial is going to be probably the hardest. Now, these characters that I have on the graphic here are all going to be farmable. I probably should have said that at the beginning, but they're all farmable right now in one way or another, whether it's War Store, Crucible, Node, something like that. But if you are just starting out right now in the last month, February 2025, and you missed the Absolute A-Force characters, then this Rogue Trial or Scourge is going to probably be the hardest one out of all the Horsemen, because the new Absolute A-Force characters are going to be absolutely essential for getting through that Scourge easily. You can still do it with some of these other characters here that I have listed, but it's going to be a difference of night and day if you have those Absolute A-Force characters. So once they become farmable, I will add them to this graphic here. But for now, we're going to leave it as this because I wanted to make sure it was going to be easy to access these characters for a new player like you. So yeah, that's that graphic. Hopefully it's easy to understand, and if you have any questions, make sure you let me know in my Discord, and I will leave the link. The link for the Discord will be down in the description. And if you have any other questions, feel free to reach out. But until next time, spend those resources wisely, and we will see you around.